Hello, and welcome to the North Coast Journal preview, where we take a look at the stories being covered in the current edition of the North Coast Journal. I'm your host, Dave Frank, and I'm joined this week by Jennifer Famiko Cahill, Arts and Features Editor, and Thad Greenson, News Editor at the North Coast Journal. Welcome, guys.
How you doing, David?
Pretty good. Sorry I ended up missing you guys last week. My computer completely overheated and cooked and died, but now we're back in business, so hopefully things are a little bit more smooth this week. Got to thank Matt for holding things down.
Absolutely. Thanks to Matt, and glad you're back with us and operational.
Well, right on. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, you got to be, right? Otherwise things, what are you going to do? Got to make things work, basically. Why don't we just dive right in, Jen? Why don't you tell us what is on the cover this week?
I know you like to start with the weather. I know it's still spring, but it's not spring. It's summer. It's the summer of fun.
Nice.
The summer of fun issue is here. So yes, parents, you can stop making frantic calls to the journal now. The summer of fun issue is coming. It's on stands now and online. For those of you who are uninitiated, the Summer of Fun issue is our annual listing of camps, activities, workshops, classes, all the stuff that you can do with your kids during summer break so that you can just live for a second.
It's a priority.
So, yeah.
Or, go to work.
Or go to your job. Yes. Complete a thought, whatever. And there are some great ones. Of course, we're in Humboldt County, so there's lots of stuff in here. And I should mention that this behemoth of a list is submissions from, could be like City of Arcata, City of Eureka, all kinds of organizations. There's some stuff from Cal Poly Humboldt, but Kali Koziris goes out and gathers, goads, prods people, reminds them, and she's our calendar editor. And then she, on top of that, assembles this massive list and winnows it down to a readable format. And it has everything. It's like a Stefan skit, right? This has everything. So there are lots and lots of outdoor camps. It's Humboldt County. If you want to put your kid in a kayak, you can do it. If you want them to go out in the woods and be in a tent, that's all there, of course. Traditional camps, campfires, scary stories, it's all there. But a couple of things caught my eye this year that are a little bit different. And some of them are ones that are repeaters, right? Like every year we have Crabs Baseball Camp, which, and I want to emphasize this is for children. But you get to go and have basically a baseball camp experience with Humboldt Crabs from the roster as your coaches. And they're kind of all over the county, spread around. And the Crabs coach sort of trains and deploys these guys to come out and teach young kids. And they winnow through, they make sure they're people who can work with kids well and, get those North Coast Little League vibes. And it's pretty cool, right? Your kid gets to be coached by the same baseball players they go to see in the Arcata ball field. Kind of neat. So that one's kind of an evergreen one. I see that the Companion Animal Foundation has one that's for the love of animals, where your kid can go and take care of dogs and cats. So, that kid that's been asking you for a pet and you're like, I don't know if you can take care of a guinea pig or a capybara. You just send them to this camp and they will learn to not only train dogs to sit, stay, etc., but also learn to care for all kinds of animals. And it's kind of a cool thing if your kid is interested in working with animals or stuff like that. It's kind of a cool introduction to see if they like it.
My favorite part about that listing was that they note that they're going to, teach your kid how to train dogs, but they will provide the dogs. You do not get to drop off your kid and your unruly dog at this camp. Just so be warned.
Yeah, it's not a doggy daycare. If your house is currently hidden somewhere under a pile of construction paper and buttons and glue. Maybe your child could do some messy crafting outside of your home, like at the Mini Makers Crafternoon camps over at Maker's Apron Creative Reuse, which we've talked about before on this show. It is the spiritual inheritor of the scrap Humboldt mantle. And your kid can go there and do all kinds of projects, from everything from like robots, oceans, jungle creatures, all kinds of cool themes. So that's kind of a good one. More specialized is the Frogtastic camp. Any guesses?
I have no idea.
Listen to this. We're making big, cuddly frogs for students who have good sewing machine control and are ready to tackle a frog or similar creatures. I think they mean tackle making a frog.
Right.
But yes, it's just camp for, like, you know, your kid who wants to make frogs. It's so beautiful.
So like stuffed animals, basically, we're talking about.
Yes. And how awesome would it be to be like, oh, where's your kid? At Frogtastic camp. Why do you ask? And my car is full of frogs, stuffed animals.
Yeah.
Why do you ask? That's a good one. And then there's one at the Natural History Museum of CPH over there in Arcata, From Dino Egg to Chicken, Natural History Museum Science and Nature Youth Camp, where they look at fossils and they look at dinosaur stuff and they make fossils and basically learn about how birds are kind of dinosaurs. And
That's
it's
pretty
kind of the
awesome.
perfect thing, right? For your kid who loves this stuff. I mean, were you a kid that got super into like fossils?
I was down.
Yeah, there's one in every group. There's just all kinds of cool stuff. There's like an aquatic center, youth aquatic adventure thing where you can learn to sail out there,
That's
sailing
awesome.
boats.
I highly
Right?
recommend
That's
that
very
one. We
cool.
got the Humboldt Bay. It's something really cool.
I know there's an Arcata skate park and a Rampart skate park camp. So there's like two different skate camps. I don't know if they like dance fight at some point. But there's just all kinds of cool stuff for kids. And of course, what's up, my theater kids? I know you're out there. There's lots of like singing, dancing, and performance camps for all you aspiring drama kings and queens.
Glee.
Yes.
It's bliss for everybody out there.
It's fantastic. And anyway, good luck planning your summer. Good luck choosing, because it's a lot.
Well, right on. That's a really fun cover story. I think you warned me and said that like this is the by far the most like in demand issue, because people are just like really want that info.
Yes, and it's online. If it's out, if you can't find it on the racks, remember that all that information is online too. So don't panic.
And pro tip, all these camps fill up fast, so do not procrastinate.
That's true.
Good point. Awesome. Well,
Last
thanks,
frog in the pond.
Yeah, if you want your frog, if you want to have frog fights, little bop them. Okay, sorry, that's not what you're supposed to do with your frog. Well, thank you, Jen. We really appreciate it. I'm sure tons of, like you said, people are just beating down the front door of the North Coast Journal, and it's here. It has arrived. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thad, why don't you tell us what you are covering this week on the News Beat?
Yeah, so I will touch on a news story that we published this week that actually didn't make it into print but is up online, and then I'll turn it back over to Jen, who newsed this week. And I think it might have been a little bit traumatic, so I'll let her process that with you. But
okay.
Our new staff writer, Ollie Hancock, followed up on a story they reported a couple weeks back regarding kind of a spate of social media posts that cropped up about drink spiking reports in Arcata. And a lot of people took to Facebook and Instagram to and actually a Reddit thread to talk about experiences they'd had having their drinks spiked at Arcata watering holes, which we found really alarming, and we started looking into it. And Ollie found kind of a really kind of stark contrast between what they heard from the Arcata Police Department and what they heard from North Coast Rape Crisis Team. And so North Coast Rape Crisis Team was saying they hadn't noticed an uptick in these reports, these kind of official reports coming into the organization, but that they received an alarming number of them every single month, an average of about 20, which considering that the data suggests that most of these types of instances go unreported, that's a really alarming number. And meanwhile, Arcata Police Department was saying they track social media posts, but they hadn't received kind of an official report from somebody in longer than the chief could remember. And so we found that kind of alarming. Ollie reported it, like I said, a couple weeks back. And then we got word after publication that North Coast Rape Crisis Team and Arcata Police Department were teaming up, and that they had found a way for North Coast Rape Crisis to share not the details and the names and contact information of people making reports, but the content of the reports, essentially. So they're anonymizing all the reports that they receive and giving that data to the Arcata Police Department. So at least the Arcata Police Department can be aware of these trends, can be aware of where these alleged spikings are happening, and kind of keep better tabs and maybe do some proactive enforcement. And so it seemed like a really positive development. And I want to note or just really stress that Amanda LeBlanc, at the executive director at North Coast Rape Crisis, was really clear that no identifying details are going to be passed on to Arcata Police. It's really going to be stripped down versions of the reports. And then at the end of filling out these reports, the survivor or whoever's reporting, it's not always the person involved in the incident, will have the option to kind of check a box of, if the Arcata Police Department would like to follow up with you, would you be willing to talk to them? And so in instances, it will connect the Arcata Police Department directly with folks making reports, but only if those people choose that option.
It's actually a really great example of like a virtuous, cause and effect situation. Things popped up on Humboldt Reddit, and then so a new sort of adjustment was made to the reaction by the police. The police now is integrated somewhat communications with the Arcata Police Department with North Coast Rape Crisis.
Yeah,
that's great. That's team. There you go. And also they said other places too, not just Arcata. Even though some of these appear to have happened in Arcata, they mentioned that they want to hear about this happening everywhere around, so that they can share their information more broadly.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there have been social media reports of instances in Eureka and other places, but North Coast Rape Crisis serves all of Humboldt County and actually Delaware County, and they were very clear that they want to hear of any reports from anywhere. And depending on how this kind of pilot partnership goes with Arcata Police Department, they expressed some interest in possibly extending it to other jurisdictions, whether it be Eureka or the Sheriff's Office. So there is the potential, if this seems successful on both sides, to kind of grow this program, which is exciting.
Well, right on. Thanks for the update on this important story and sharing the good news about an additional resource for our community.
Absolutely.
All right, Jen. Well, let's dive back into what you are working on. We were told that that said that you got some news coverage under your belt this week. What you been working on?
I know I got news all over me, but happy news. In fact, I got to interview Tori McConnell, who is Miss Indian World. And you ask yourself, Miss Indian World, have I heard of this competition? Maybe not. Mm-hmm. It is held at the largest powwow gathering in North America, and it's done every year, and it is international. Any Indigenous woman between 18 and 26 can apply. That means if you are Maori from New Zealand, if you are, Aborigine from Australia, if you are Ainu from Japan, if you are, I don't know, maybe Yurok and Karuk from Humboldt County, you can be in it. And so, in fact, Miss Indian World Tori McConnell for 2023 is from Eureka, and she is Yurok and Karuk. And my God, she's impressive.
So, this is really an amazing feel-good story.
She's pretty amazing. So she's 23, and she went to this thing. And before we even get into like what your talent has to be, or what you wear to such a competition. So she's been at UC Davis. She started out in neurobiology, and then she moved over into Native American studies. And she has worked in the Yurok tribe's food sovereignty program, but now she's working as an apprentice in the Master and Apprentice language acquisition program that the Yurok tribe runs. And she's working with, perhaps you know, artist Julian Lang. He is a master speaker, and what they do is they pair you with someone to acquire the language, just like pick it up by speaking. Anyway, it's part of a whole cultural preservation and language learning thing. So already she's, very impressive, but she's also done like language work abroad. She went on a trip with Lang, I think, to Australia to do some stuff with people there. She's done all kinds of, cultural work in her tribe. Her talent was she brought in basketry that she did, which is like incredible, elaborate basketry, the process and meaning of which, like with the snake head design and the materials, how the willow was processed and everything, she described in Yurok for the judges. She also composed and sang a song and did a dance that you can imagine the dances that are in different parts of, even just like we just look at North America, right? That they'd be really different in, say, the Northeast versus the Southwest. But there's one, as she put it, heartbeat drum that they use, and you have to dance to that. And she'd never done it before, and it's like 4,000 people. But she did it. She rocked it. She not only won for best traditional talent for the basketry, but also Miss Congeniality. Everybody just liked her.
Yeah.
She's just so damn nice. And she was talking about how important that was to her, because part of what you're being judged on is your character. They like watch you throughout the week of the powwow. And as she put it, she said that her plan, her goals in participating in the competition and what she plans to do, among them are she's interested in doing more ceremony here on the North Coast, preserving tattooing culture. You've seen, I'm sure, lots of Native women in our area have the chin tattoos, and she was talking about the meaning of that. And she talked about serving as a part of her tribe, those that fix the world and those who balance the world by fulfilling our spiritual and physical obligations. She also, her whole regalia thing was like a whole other story. I think I could have probably spent, a month just learning about her regalia. It was fantastic. So I asked her, okay, what did you wear? Like, and I can just tell you it was not evening gowns. Everybody shows up in, traditional regalia, and hers, everything has a story. Her cap was made by her great-great-great-grandmother, who was one of the last traditional doctors in our area. Her sort of beaded caplet that she wore with like pine nuts and things like that was designed by a woman from Hoopa, who designs things, and they came up with it together, kind of based on some traditional themes, but it's a completely new design. She wore, some hair wraps, otter hair wraps from her family friend Rachel Sundberg. She wore, a bear grass skirt that she wore during the white deer dance, and like everything had a story. Everything was made, like her father gathered pine nuts and her friends helped process them. Somebody gave her abalone and they polished it together, and everything was a real group effort. And she kept texting me afterward and saying, oh, and I forgot this, this piece came from here. The anklets were from my mom. And like, she really was carrying her entire community on her body and really showing the artistry and the cultural richness of Yurok and Karuk culture. And it was really something. And that's kind of what the judges are looking for, somebody who can embody and carry on their culture. And it's just kind of fascinating. She also said, this is my favorite thing that she said, that the maple bark skirt was kind of the everyday outfit of, women, Native women in our part of the country. And she said it's super comfortable, super versatile. It can be for everyday wear while you're like doing daily chores, or it can be for ceremony. And she called it the little black dress of local Native women. Gotta love it. I feel stupid not having one in my closet. And it was just a really cool thing to see. She said to me in our conversation, she said, it took so much support from my community to suit up and do this. And she talks about how she just really was not alone in it. And that's the thing about being Indigenous. And that's the thing that she's really hoping to kind of use her role with. She wants to connect with more of her community here and connect her community here with other Native communities around the world. She might do some traveling, who knows? But it really is about existing and working together. And it's a wonderful win. And and she's the first person from the North Coast to have won in something like 14 years. And she is the first Yurok woman. So it's very exciting.
This is an amazing, like I said earlier, feel-good story. There is a photo, so people that want to check out the full regalia, you could check it out online or pick one up on newsstands, of course. But yeah, this was a really cool story, and your coverage kind of brought everything to life about how inspiring she is as a person. And it's one of those things, like you said, this is what she said, that this is what we do. We share, we help each other, and then that outfit kind of just shows that it's like how many people contributed.
Fantastic. It's incredible. And, when you think about something as delicate as a basket, or at least the kind of baskets that we see in our daily lives that are not like Native made baskets, like to think of that lasting multiple generations and looking as beautiful as the day it was made, it's incredible. It's a real legacy.
And it's funny because some people sometimes when they talk about like pageants, they say sometimes they emphasize maybe traits that aren't necessarily quite so admirable, but this is very, very different.
Yeah, this is not what they do in Atlantic City.
Yeah, that's sort of what I meant. Oh my goodness.
So there's also something totally insane. Do we have a minute?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. There's something totally insane in the paper. So Desmond Remington, whose name is very like romance novel, but in fact, he is the managing editor of the Lumberjack these days. He wrote a story for us about a dude that jumps off bridges over and over and over and off of cliffs into bodies of water, and sometimes from very, very far up. I would like to say for everyone, not only don't do this at home, I'm begging you, don't do this. It is an interesting mindset that makes people feel they can do this, but he is literally just jumping off of high places into water that they've more or less checked out and figured is kind of safe. It's prone to accidents, but 19-year-old Nico Ponicanti is, I don't know, he's a risk taker, adrenaline junkie, what have you. To give you an idea of what it's like, Desmond describes a hard landing he made. It didn't work out so well. He didn't enter the water feet first after a flip. And it says his entire body smacked the river with a sound like a bomb. When he came up from the water, he said, and I quote, "I wish I had no balls."
Okay.
That's a tough landing.
Yeah.
That's a tough landing. But anyway, they talk about this group of people. He interviewed this group of people who go around and do this really dangerous sport. The article is titled "The Call of the Void," and it is very much about that crazy impulse to be at the edge of something. And this fellow describes like the feeling of, what if I just jumped off of this? And apparently he's not alone. Apparently a lot of people do this. And I was looking up online to sort of like, doing some fact checking and whatnot. And there's a lot of people who are just jumping off of cliffs into bodies of water. In this case, the Trinity River. Again, I don't recommend it. And if you're using a bridge, it's illegal. But this is the story. It's really interesting. It's an interesting look at a kind of a personality and a drive to do something really risky and to sort of chase a rush.
Well, that's really cool. Thank you for filling us in on that other element from this week's North Coast Journal. We appreciate you, Jen. This was really a great wrap up of what the Miss Indian world, but also adrenaline junkies.
I know. Don't do it, Dave.
I won't. I'm not that guy.
About it.
Trust
Don't
me.
do it.
I measure the bottom and stuff. That's me. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have this week. Thad and Jen, again, thank you so much. We appreciate you in a big way.
Thank you, Dave.
Everybody out there, thank you for listening. We appreciate you too. North Coast Journal is available on newsstands now. Pick one up, stay informed. Also available online 24/7. Jen and everybody else, take care till we connect again next week. Bye, everybody.